Welcome to episode 214 of the Various Sundry Podcast. I am your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from the Vault Studio on the beautiful campus of Grace College and Theological Seminary by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who is gearing up for his Super Bowl party, John Scott Sloat.
Yeah, I have to eat a metric ton of buffalo dip.
Yeah.
That's really what this is.
Well, and let's be honest, the person who makes arguably the best buffalo chicken dip is going to be at your festivities.
And will actively not tell you ingredients because she's ashamed of how unhealthy it is.
Which gives you plausible deniability to consume as much. And you're like,
I appreciate the plausible deniability.
I don't know what's all in that. It just tastes good. Just tastes good. So, well, it's been 2 weeks since we've been in this studio.
Yes. The last episode was the live episode at Grace's Chapel.
Yeah. You want to debrief on that a little bit, or?
I thought it was good.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, those are my basic thoughts. I would love to see local listeners come out to that show in the future. Potentially any pastors that are within a 3-mile radius of of the university. Would love to see them make their way to campus for that event. Yeah. I feel like we had good feedback of students coming up afterwards, wanting to chat and talk. And, I think I threw out that you'd be willing to have a conversation about why tithing is not the right framework. Yeah. And I think a couple of students took you up on that and came up and had a conversation.
They did.
Yeah. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, similar. I did get a chuckle out of the fact that, we kind of made fun of the fact that it was a presidential scholarship competition day. So you had like 80 students.
80 visiting students.
Plus typically a parent or two with each student, and they don't send them to chapel. Yes. Well, after we got done, this woman comes up who was a parent of a student who was competing in the presidential scholarship competition. And she's like, I saw that there's other stuff going on, but I thought, I want to go to chapel. I had no idea that you guys were going to do – that there was going to be a podcast. Yeah. And it turns out you
had a connection to her, didn't you, somehow? I'm trying to remember.
She went to Ohio University.
Ah, yes.
Now, she was very kind. She's like, oh, we were probably there about the same time. Like, oh, so when were you there? And she's like, well, I was there like 2000, like somewhere in that kind of 2000. Like, yeah, I'm a little older than you. I graduated in 95. So yeah.
5 years, 6 years.
Not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad.
But yeah, and it was fun to get to meet her and her son, who was obviously competing for scholarship money. So
yeah.
So yeah, it was a good experience. Good experience.
We're up to 82 ratings on the
Oh, did we get more? I didn't even check.
No one wrote anything, but we got
more rating. Are we still rolling the 5 stars?
5 stars. I think there's 1 2-star rating in there, maybe. Oh. It's like our average is like 4.9.
Okay. If you are the 2-star person.
Let me just double check to make sure I'm right about this. I just pulled it up.
I want that 2-star person.
Yeah, there's a couple of 4 stars and it looks like a 2-star.
Okay.
So 4.9 is our average out of 5, 82 total ratings.
I can live with the 4 stars. I'm not thrilled, but I can live with it. But the 2-star, is there any indication of did this 2-star person like indicate and give a comment?
So January 25th, 2024, we got a rating. Did you know we had a January 25th?
No.
4-star rating. Heck of a podcast is all that's written.
Then give us the 5 stars.
And the username is Hecka Reviews.
Okay. All right.
And there's a couple Heck of a podcast on January 25th.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's better than a 2-star. I want to know who that 2-star person is. Come on. Okay. If you want to get in touch with the show.
Really threw you off there, didn't I?
I did, yes. You can find us on Twitter at VNSPod. You can email the show, variousandsunderypodcast@gmail.com. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. And we would like for you to leave a 5-star review and then say something. You can say whatever you want, I guess, in the review.
Yeah. 5 stars is the important part. We would like something positive. It's a nice little ego boost.
Sure. I mean, heck of a podcast.
That's fine.
That's fine, yeah.
But there's 2 of them. There's 2 heck of a podcast at 4 stars.
Okay.
Right. Makes me think it's the same person.
It might be. Or 2 buddies sitting next to each other during the episode.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
Yeah, that could be the case too. All right. Let's talk some sports here, John.
Okay.
So because we did the live episode and that focused we recorded it on a weird day for us. And
Tuesday? Did we record on a Tuesday?
No, we recorded on a Thursday.
Thursday, that's right.
Which means it didn't drop till the following Tuesday.
That's right, yeah.
So we've not talked about NFL football. So the last episode we recorded, the live episode, was before the conference championship games.
Yep.
And so we haven't talked about that. So let's talk about those briefly. You wanted to talk Ravens-Chiefs.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a great game. They both scored on their opening drive, and then the defenses showed up. Mm-hmm. And basically there was no scoring in the second half, or very little scoring in the second half. And I thought Lamar Jackson played really, really well. And the most sensational play was the pass he threw that got tipped in the air that he then ran forward and caught himself.
Yeah.
Which the CBS Sport – because I was like, how do you box score that?
Yeah.
And they had it as a Lamar Jackson 5-yard pass
to
Lamar Jackson
yeah.
run for 8 yards or however far it went.
Yeah.
Which was incredible. I've never seen anything like it. Have you seen – now I've seen the quarterback throw the ball and get batted backward and the quarterback catch it, but never up and the quarterback run
and
forward
yeah,
and
I've
catch
not
it.
Seen that.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I think I might be a little less complimentary of Lamar Jackson's performance than you are. In part because he threw an interception that was pretty costly.
Yeah.
When they were still in the game, and he threw it basically into triple coverage. An ill-advised throw. It wasn't 4th down. It wasn't like, got to make something happen on this play.
Yeah.
They were like probably at their own, or at the Chiefs' like 25, 30-yard line, throw into the end zone. But I'm not saying he lost them the game. I mean, they had another drive end where I forget which player it was, but he's diving towards the end zone, extends the ball. It gets knocked loose before he gets to the goal line.
Fumbles it in the end zone.
Fumbles it into the end zone.
Yeah.
Chiefs recover. So that's 2 turnovers in the end zone that could have flipped the game for them. I was a little surprised at how little they ran the football. I mean, they're a dominant rushing offense, and it's like they decided we're just going to throw the ball
a ton.
It didn't make sense to me, the game plan. But anyway, I guess our hopes of not seeing a Taylor Swift Super Bowl have gone away now. And
Can I tell you my Taylor Swift take on the football?
Sure.
My take is I am rooting for love. My Super Bowl, I think the Chiefs will win.
Yeah,
that's my Super Bowl pick, just based on they have a better quarterback. And I want Travis to propose at the 50-yard line after the game, and I want him to get married and have kids. I'm rooting for love.
I see.
That's my Super Bowl hot take.
Okay, I am not opposed to most of that. I'm not opposed to most of that. But here's the thing. What I don't want, the constant camera flashes to Taylor Swift in the box after every time Travis Kelce catches a pass or does something. Like, I can do without those.
So what I noticed in the most recent telecast, which I thought was an appropriate amount, was when he scored a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Panning to see the family freaking out is a thing.
Okay.
And then when they did a promo for the Grammys, that felt like an appropriate time to pan to
yes,
T-Money.
But wasn't it after when they did the Grammys one? I saw this clip on social media of like you can see Taylor's lips saying something like "Please stop," like basically like "Please stop flashing up here and looking at."
Oh, really?
Yes.
No, I missed that.
Yeah. So anyway, so I don't know.
It is better. So when NBC did the game Jets Chiefs, and they were panning to Taylor every 3 minutes, it felt like.
Yeah.
That was way too much.
Yeah.
Way too much. I think they've moderated quite a bit. She's the biggest celebrity on the planet right now.
Yes.
I think in some sense you have to pan to her at the game.
Okay.
Viewership in her in games that she is at is through the roof. NFL's making a ton of money off of this. Every time they pan her, they got to be making millions.
Okay.
I just think it makes business sense. But I thought they struck a pretty good.
Doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yeah, you don't have to like it. I am rooting for love. I want the two of them to get engaged either at the Super Bowl or after the Super Bowl, whenever, and I want them to get married and live out the Americana dream.
So you are not of the persuasion that some are that this is a giant PR stunt.
No.
Okay, you think there's legitimate this is a legitimate relationship.
Yeah, I think there may be some pandering to the camera.
Sure.
Yeah, but I think it's a legitimate relationship.
Okay. And then on the other side, you had an epic collapse
of the Detroit Lions.
By the Detroit Lions, which I was pulling for them.
I was too. I wanted them to win the Super Bowl. I thought it would have been great.
But see, now here's where I think – one of the storylines that comes out of that is Dan Campbell, the coach for the Lions, just going for it on seemingly every fourth down.
Oh, yeah, which is what the analytics say you should do.
But yes –
I don't know. To be clear, I don't think it's always a good idea to follow the analytics.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's one of the storylines that's come out is the criticism of this is what happens when you allow math nerds to control football, basically, where you've got – which is ironic because Dan Campbell is like the last person who would strike you as a math nerd.
He seems like too much of a gym rat to be a math nerd.
Yeah, like he's a guy you're like, that guy, even though he's coaching, is spending a couple hours in the weight room himself, just working out himself. And I love his energy. I think he's a great leader in the locker room. Clearly he has turned that franchise around. But some of his decisions to go for it on fourth down. Now you can say, well, was it number 8? Is it Reynolds' his last name, I think? Dropped a couple of passes that probably should have been caught and would have converted fourth downs for them. But that's also like that's part of the analytics, though, right? Like, analytics has to factor in. It's all percentages. Well, percentage of the time you go for it on 4th and 3 at this stage, 60% of the time you're gonna convert.
Here's my problem with analytics in football is there's just so few opportunities. Whereas analytics in baseball, you're getting 4 at-bats a game over 162 game season.
Yeah.
There's just a lot more chances and opportunities for those percentages to work themselves out. I just don't think you get that many chances in football.
Yeah.
You have how many fourth downs can you go for in a year? Maybe 100?
You mean like if you went for how many opportunities?
Yeah. Maybe 100?
Yeah, maybe. And that's including times where it's like, well, it's 4th and 20 from your own 16-yard line. Well, obviously you're not going to go for it there. And the percentages of going for it there are of getting it when you go for that are like less than 5%.
So a baseball player gets 400 to 500 at bats a year.
Yeah.
That's a lot more. That's a lot more opportunities than going for it on fourth down. And I think that's where the analytics break down. It says there's just not many opportunities for those percentages, probabilities to work themselves out.
Well, and I think in general in football too, analytics are an average across the whole league that does not take into account personnel and strengths and weaknesses of a team.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So, it might be – I'm guessing if you looked at the percentages on going for it on 4th and 1, well, the conversion rate is probably what? 70%?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, sure.
Quarterback sneak.
Yeah.
Philly brotherly shove.
Yeah.
Whatever you got.
But what if your offensive line stinks?
What if you're the Jets?
Yeah. You look at the analytics say 70% chance of conversion.
Yeah.
Not for your team. Your team might have a 30% chance because your offensive line isn't as good, or you don't have a great running back.
Don't you think the Lions have analytics for their team specifically?
But then the sample size isn't enough.
It's so small. Mm-hmm.
The sample size is even way smaller.
And
if it's just your team, it's one thing if you're going across league averages where you've got 32 teams. How many times are they having 4th and 1 situations or 4th and 3? And there's enough opportunities even there, not compared to baseball, but still enough where you're like, okay, analytics points this direction. But if you're just going for your team, then the numbers are really skewed.
Yeah, yeah. And that's where I think the analytics breaks down for football is you don't have 162 games to measure this on or to have this work out. And quite frankly, we haven't seen a ton of analytic-driven teams. You could argue the Astros have done this, but you haven't seen a ton of analytic teams do super well in the postseason of baseball.
Yeah, and I think, the one that stands out to me is when Dan Campbell instead of kicking a 47-yard field goal, which that's not a guaranteed make.
Yeah.
But still, at the NFL level, the weather conditions were fine. You expect to make that 85% of the time probably, right?
Yep.
That's what the analytics are on that probably. You're giving that up to go for it on 4th and 3, whatever. But it was a tie game. Or maybe it was they were still up 7. But all the momentum was on San Francisco's side. Get some points to stop the bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
If you get some points to stop, it's hard to factor in momentum. Momentum doesn't factor into analytics.
No, not at all.
Which that's part of the argument is, it takes the emotions out of it. Well, sure, but then sometimes it takes the feel of the game out of it where it's man, I need to get us some points on the board here to get a positive outcome for our team here. And if we go for it and don't get it, my goodness, it only just adds on to the momentum of the other team.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway. So it will be Niners, Chiefs, and you've got Chiefs.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs are going with it.
I think so too.
I wouldn't mind. I'd like to see Brock Purdy get a title.
So you like Brock Purdy?
Yes. I do not think he's as good of a quarterback as Patrick Mahomes.
Well.
But
you could say that about, are there two other quarterbacks in the league that you say he's probably as good as Patrick Mahomes?
I don't know who I'd say that about.
Yeah.
Maybe at the start of the year I'd go, Jalen Hurts, maybe, but
nah,
not at the end of this year.
So anyway,
but I like Brock Purdy. He's got a good story. He has a grace connection.
He has a grace connection?
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you off pod. But but grace connection, would love to see him. There's been rumors of him coming to speak in chapel here. I'd love to see him. I'd love to bring him here and have him do quite a bit. But
there you go.
I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him get a ring, but would love I think it's going to be the Chiefs.
Okay. You want to say anything about the Knicks?
Hey, we're doing awesome. This has been really exciting.
Is it 10 games winning streak, 11 games?
So we lost
to
the Lakers.
So that broke a 10-game winning streak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we're 9-1 in our last 10 games, and that's with For 3 of those, I think Julius Randle's been down with a shoulder injury.
Okay.
OG's been out with an elbow problem. And we're hoping to get – and we're at a softer spot in our schedule. Mm-hmm. And hopefully they come back and we'll have the Celtics and teams like that coming up. So, yeah. But we got the Grizzlies Tuesday night. So when this drops tonight.
There you go. And last sports note Grace College men's basketball team still unbeaten.
Can we talk about the IWU game?
We can, yes.
Did you go down for that?
No, I couldn't, but I did watch the stream.
So I was nervous about that game because IWU was number 5 in the country.
Yeah.
We did not play well against Marion the Saturday before.
Yep.
And so I was a little nervous about that game, thinking they could we'll be on their floor.
Yeah.
And we just wiped the floor with
annihilated
them. So the next morning, I had a visit with a pastor in Fort Wayne. Mm-hmm. Grace grad, church of about 1,000, a little under 1,000. And he's giving me a tour. It's 9 a.m. in the morning. We're walking around. And he had told his staff that I was going to be there. And this guy came out of his office and going like, I drove down to the IWU game last night. Took my son. He has a daughter at Grace. He goes, took my son who's in high school, and we went down to that game, and man, they just annihilated them, just destroyed them. And we talked about the game for like 10 minutes. It was awesome.
Yeah. That game was tied 28-28 about halfway through the first half. And Grace finished the half on like a 22-5 run to go up 17 at the half and ended up leading by as many as 34 before settling for a 28-point win, which has to be the biggest margin of victory at IWU. That's got to be up there. So props to them. So now and then they won this past weekend. So they are now 23-0.
I think that's right. Yeah, 23-0.
And the only undefeated team in all of men's college basketball at all levels. So NCAA Division I, II, III, NAIA, the only unbeaten team.
That's right.
So there you go. All right. You ready to move on, John?
Yeah, we need to.
We definitely need to. So today our main topic is social media. And we had decided on this even before knowing that this past week that Mark Zuckerberg was going to be testifying in front of Congress in a congressional hearing. Did you catch any of that? Or
I heard about highlights from it, but it was him. It was the American guy that represents TikTok, or known to me as the puppet of the Chinese government, and a few others. A few others were there as well.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just Zuckerberg.
Correct. So, I think our discussion will be less oriented towards those hearings than it is just social media in general. So let's talk about our individual experiences before I kind of dive in a little bit more.
Okay.
So you are on Twitter.
I am.
And you've been on Twitter.
2009, I got on Twitter.
Okay.
I was an early adopter.
Early adopter.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got on Twitter in 2009.
I think
I was made fun of on campus as an undergraduate for having Twitter.
Okay. I think I got on in 2012, maybe. Whatever year it was that Ohio State played in the Final Four, and you went down. It was in New Orleans. You were there.
Yeah. Anthony. This is the Anthony Davis year. Anthony Davis, Kentucky against Kansas was the
and we lost to Kansas.
We lost to Kansas
in the semifinals,
and Kentucky beat Louisville.
There you go. But yes, that's when I joined Twitter. So I think that was 2012. I think
so.
Right around there.
I was in seminary at the time, so that would jive with that timeline.
And then Facebook.
When did you join Facebook?
I think longer than that. I had Facebook before I had Twitter.
I think I got it my freshman year of college.
Okay.
I think fall of 06 or spring of 07. Yeah. That's when I got Facebook.
I mean, mine was probably 08, 09 range. There.
And then my Facebook got hacked and deleted. Do you remember this?
Yes.
On graduation morning. And that wasn't that long ago. And I just restarted it up in the last year or last 18 months for my job.
Yeah. Yeah. And are you on Instagram?
No. I deleted my Instagram a while back.
Okay. I am on Instagram, but I do almost nothing with it.
Yeah.
I think I've been on Instagram for, I don't know, probably 7-8 years. It's my guess. Maybe not even that long. Yeah. But yeah, no TikTok.
No, terrified.
Yeah.
Uninterested in TikTok.
I'm not interested either.
And it really has more to do with like puppet of the Chinese government stuff for me. Like, I don't believe that's secure messaging. I think they're lying to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think people in the government agree with me.
Yeah. So when you think about social media, I know I do this. I'm guessing you do too. Like, how do you kind of think differently about each of those? Let's talk about the three. What I would say. Well, let's go the four main platforms. So Facebook, Twitter, Insta, and let's throw in TikTok, even though neither of us is on it.
Okay.
How do you sort of think through? Like, let's go with each one. Like, so let's start with Twitter.
Okay.
Like, what do you think of when you think of Twitter? Like, or what? What do you hope to get out of it, even as you use it?
So,
or what do you think it's best for? Maybe.
So I've heard Twitter described this way. It's the world's greatest library of information with a food fight going on constantly.
Okay.
And so you can find some great information in there, but it's often riddled with a lot of garbage as well.
Yeah.
So the way that I've used it and found it helpful is creating those lists. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where you set who you want to follow or what topics you want to follow. So like I have one for Mets beat writers that I like. I have one for Jets beat writers that I like. I have one for finance that I really like to follow. I have political journalists I can stand. That's a list of mine.
All three?
Yes. And then I have church leaders I really like in another.
Okay. So and you just kind of toggle through the lists when you're on Twitter.
Yep. Okay. Yep. I will sometimes go to the algorithm one where they send you stuff they think you'll want to see.
Yeah.
And truthfully, recently they've been really funny memes that have been coming my way. Okay. So I've really enjoyed some of that. So I've been there a little bit more rather than some of the garbage food fighty stuff that I've seen. How do you use Twitter?
So I don't do the lists. I mean I do try to stay on the people I'm following rather than the algorithm one, the For You one.
Okay.
But I mean the joke in our house is let's check Twitter to see what we're supposed to be angry about today.
Mm-hmm.
And so I agree with you. There is some helpful information.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a way of keeping track of trends or things going on, but there's a lot to sift through in terms of the just shouting, misinformation, etc.
Yeah, it can't be a good place to get breaking news. Like often, if somebody's going to break a sports trade, it's going to be on Twitter first.
Yeah,
and then it'll trickle out to various websites and things like that. Yeah. But like I know that I learned that Kobe Bryant died before it was reported that Kobe Bryant died on Twitter.
Yeah.
So TMZ had this on Twitter before anybody else did.
Yeah.
And so it can be helpful in that. But I always take a big if true sort of approach to Twitter. Yeah. You know, like when something bombastic happens, it's like that's big if it's really happening.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can tell that sports teams play with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
They'll leak something to a reporter who then
tweets it out,
and it happens to be false or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. What about Facebook?
I use that as my Grace College network. That's my alum sort of network. I send messages to our alumni if I'm trying to connect with them and can't find them anywhere else, or I could type into the search bar and find just about anybody over 55. So, yeah, I'm looking for people that way mostly.
It does skew a little older, that's for sure, which is hilarious given its origins as a college social network.
Yes. I think Zuckerberg originally used it to find out what girls were attractive on campus without having to go meet them.
There you
right?
go. I think that's correct.
Yeah. So it's just funny. It's what it's morphed into.
Yeah. So for me, that's really how I just kind of keep up with what's going on with a wide range of acquaintances I have acquired throughout my years of life. Some people from college, some people from former students, friends in the academy that I have, just kind of a semi-random collection of acquaintances I've acquired over the last 15 years. What about Instagram?
I haven't used Instagram in a few years, but I use it kind of similar to Facebook, but for younger people. Yeah. Kind of what's everybody up to, what's everybody doing. I'd probably use it for networking. If I've thought about downloading it recently to follow some more trendy. Like my wife always pulls up. There's a Food with Levi, which have you ever seen this?
No.
Instagram? Levi is a toddler, and his dad is a 4-star chef.
Okay.
And so he makes his son these incredibly elaborate meals and puts it on his high chair and goes, "Ooh, thank you." And he, starts dissecting and goes, "I love scallops," or, whatever. It's just super cute. And you get to watch this really awesome looking food be prepared.
Yeah. Okay.
It's I would follow that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If I was on Instagram. How do you use it?
Yeah. I really don't use it.
Okay.
Now, I will sometimes, if I'm it can be a way of trying to find out who is this person, or what, So there's sort of the informal light stalking sort of thing of oh, someone mentioned this person. Who is that again? They're this person, And then TikTok, I'm not on it. You're not on it. I feel like did that not largely start as people I had the impression it was people recording themselves dancing or doing things like that. And then it has morphed way beyond that into a lot of other things. But
yeah, my sense about TikTok is it started that way in the midst of the pandemic. Feels like where it gained most of its momentum.
Yeah.
And it shifted into you can find just about anything on TikTok, financial advice or stocks to pick or exercise routines or
influencers in thought sort of thing where I'm thinking of I don't want to name this person, but there are people who have built a whole kind of platform on trying to debunk Christianity. You probably know who I'm thinking of, a son of a well-known evangelical preacher.
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Those sorts of things.
Mm. Yeah, I also think there's some apologetics people on there as well.
I'm sure there's other direction stuff.
Sure.
I'm sure people have entered in and try to counterbalance that.
My sense is, based on this, is that it may just be a whole lot easier to monetize TikTok than it is to monetize Instagram or Facebook.
Sure.
That's a bit of my sense. Same thing with Twitter. I don't think people make a ton of money on Twitter.
I wouldn't think so.
Twitter itself doesn't make a ton of money. It's kind of a failed business model that we feel like we need to keep around. But I think my sense is that TikTok you can make a lot of money.
Okay, so one of the things I wanted to bring up is the effects that social media has on teens.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Haidt, who we both appreciate a lot of what he writes and does, has basically, he tweeted this recently, even if social media companies could reduce, and he gives a whole list of very negative things that happen on social media, by 80%, I think the main takeaway from these Senate hearings is social media is just not appropriate for children. Congress should fix the mistake it made in 1998, raise the age from 13 to 16, and enforce it. Others have suggested, nope, make it 18.
I was thinking 21.
I mean, I don't have necessarily a problem with that, but it all comes down to the enforcement piece.
Yeah. How do you enforce it?
Because, I mean, basically, from what I understand, like if someone goes to sign up for an account on Instagram or whatever,
they just lie about their age.
They just lie about their age.
Yeah.
There's no verification.
Mm-hmm.
There's no you have to demonstrate that you're actually this age.
Yeah.
So, that might as well not be a requirement, right? Yeah. I mean, because I'm sure there are plenty of 10-year-olds who are on Instagram who just said, well, yeah, I'm 13 and didn't think a thing of it. And their parents don't even –
either don't care or don't know.
Either don't care or don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just too I see people talking about, well, it's the parent's responsibility. Well, sure, at one level, but a parent can't always perfectly police what their teenager or preteen is doing.
Yeah.
And
some of this comes down to smartphones. Like you need a smartphone to make these things work. Could you police that a little bit more easily?
Absolutely.
How old were your kids when they got smartphones?
16.
16? Okay.
When they started driving, essentially.
Yeah. GPS, 911, calls like that.
Yep.
Calling parents, obviously.
But with restrictions,
mm-hmm.
not unfettered use of there was monitoring software on it. That's not perfect, but it's a start.
And I assume your kids knew about this monitoring?
They knew it.
Okay.
And they knew that at any time we could pick up their phone and look through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think – and there were restrictions about they couldn't have it in their room at night. Like when they went to bed, it was
in the kitchen.
Either in our bedroom with us or in the kitchen where they could not be using it at night after they went to bed. So I think there are things you can do. And part of the motivation was they're going to end up using it eventually. So we want them to baby step it into it while they're in our house so we can monitor and correct as necessary to model hopefully what healthy usage is.
Oh, yeah.
But I would not criticize a parent who's like, nope, not even touching it, can't have it. Yeah. I would not criticize that at all.
Yeah, and I think some of that depends on the kid themselves, maturity level, things like that.
We need to wrap up, but how can we use it well? And can you think of any examples of people who use it well, use social media well?
I mean, if you're a public figure, a journalist, a politician or something like that, I think it can be a good way to get your message out.
Mm-hmm. Let's think specifically of the pastor. Let's just narrow it to how can a pastor use it well? And let's just be clear. I don't think there's any obligation whatsoever for a pastor to be on social media.
Yeah, I mean, I think being able to see what your parishioners are saying, to mm-hmm. see what they're tweeting about or mm-hmm. posting about, or to get a feel of what's important to them, what's not important to them, could come in useful. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know some pastors that put out their sermon points. I think that'd be a good way to use it.
Yep.
Albeit it can create controversy from time to time, but those are some ways that naturally come to mind. You got any?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and this is tricky. I do think it can be used in a way that alerts people to helpful resources as well.
Mm-hmm. Justin Taylor tweeted about our Bible commentaries over the weekend.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go. So I think that can be useful. But I think it is wise for every person to weigh whether the benefits outweigh the cost in their own personal life.
Yeah.
In terms of their usage of social media.
beyond that, I would take it one step further to smartphone, and whether you absolutely need a smartphone or could you get – I mean, there's a couple of different things out there, but there's something called Light Phone that basically has calling, texting, navigation, and that's it.
Yeah.
And podcast, I think, are on there too. But that you could have and basically have everything you need without having the news capabilities or the social media capabilities at all. So I would expand that from social media to even smartphone usage. Now, we both have smartphones, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be difficult for either of us to do our job without a smartphone.
Yeah, I mean, mine becomes my key at my hotel room. So for me to get into my room, I need my smartphone.
I mean, yeah, you travel more than I do, but even just when you travel, and even just in certain contexts where, I mean, for example, going to a football game now.
You need your phone to get in the door.
Here's the app where you download the ticket and you show the barcode scan, and then it can be a challenge to get paper tickets, and some places won't even accept them. Mm-hmm. Like, it has to be on a smartphone app to get into the event.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can make the case that you can try to live without a smartphone. Some people can. Some people probably should. Mm-hmm. Others can't just because of the nature of their job.
Yeah.
But then it just becomes a wisdom and discipline issue of using it in an appropriate way that doesn't consume your life.
Yeah.
All right. There's a million more things we could say about that, about social media. But we need to move on to this day in sports history.
All right. This day in sports history, February 6th. The 6th of February.
Yeah.
February.
Who's this Rue? Where'd he come from?
1926, NFL rules college students ineligible until college classes graduates until they graduate, or until they're done taking classes. I see.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, you can't leave college early to go play professional football. I just put that in there as a contrast to what a different world we live in.
Yeah.
I mean, what a remarkably different world we live in with sports.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still a rule in the NFL that you have to be three years removed from your high school graduating date. That's the rule still.
Yeah.
Maurice Claret tried to challenge that and lost in court. But anyway.
1971, American astronaut Alan Shepard is first to hit golf ball on the moon. That's a big deal.
That is a huge deal, yeah.
Could you imagine the distance you would get on the moon with the lack of gravity?
Yeah, but the bulky suit's going to make it difficult to swing the club fluidly.
That's true. That's an excellent
I imagine
point.
the lie is not great.
At least the lie be consistent. Now, the big mounds, the big craters would be another thing. 1972, Dutch speed skater Ard Schenk follows his win in the 500 meter with a victory.
That's the 5,000 meter.
5,000 meter, with a victory in the 1,500 on his way to 3 gold medals at the Sapporo. Am I getting that right?
Sure.
Winter Olympics, also wins the 10,000 meter.
Ard Schenk.
Schenk?
Yeah. Schenk. Schenk.
I'm thinking Schenk.
Maybe.
Okay. Who am I to challenge you on pronunciation? I can hear Nate in Ohio screaming at his headphones right now. 1995 MLB outfielder. Goodness gracious.
Try that again.
Unique New York. Okay. MLB outfielder Darryl Strawberry suspended from baseball for 60 days for a positive cocaine test.
He's had a rough go of it with the drug stuff.
Has he had
a period of he's had a stretch of being sober, clean
for quite some time,
like a decade probably now, right?
Yeah, and he's working with a rehab facility in Florida.
It's Doc Gooden that has not managed to.
That will still disappear from time to time.
Yeah.
Yes. 2005 Super Bowl. Oh goodness, Roman numerals. 39.
Yeah.
Attell Stadium, is that right?
Alltel
Stadium, Jacksonville, Florida. The New England Patriots beat the Philadelphia Eagles 24-21. MVP Deion Branch, New England wide receiver. Mm-hmm. Gosh, I remember that Super Bowl because it was kind of like the Eagles with Donovan McNabb
and Terrell Owens.
And T.O., that's right.
was on that team.
They had made the NFC Championship game like 3 or 4 years in a row and lost.
Yep, and finally got past that. And T.O. had been injured. Yeah.
And came back for the Super Bowl, and everybody thought it was a stunt. And he came out and he played really well.
Yeah.
Really, really well. 2011 Super Bowl. Oh, goodness. Is that 55?
45.
45, you're right. 45. Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Green Bay Packers beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 31-25. MVP Aaron Rodgers.
I really have almost no memory of that Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't really remember it either. I kind of remember Ben Roethlisberger losing to Aaron Rodgers, but that's really it.
I really don't remember. The recent Steelers Super Bowl I remember is when they played the Cardinals.
Yeah, I remember that.
James Harrison intercepted a pass.
That's right.
On the last play of the first half and ran it back 100 yards for a touchdown.
Yep.
And they still ended up needing a touchdown pass to Santonio Holmes in the back corner of the end zone.
What a catch.
Which
that was a great catch.
To win that game.
And Cardinals wide receiver who played really well in that game, Larry Fitzgerald, was very, very good in that game.
That's the recent Steelers Super Bowl I remember, not this one.
And their 06 in Detroit with the bus, Jerome Bettis winning his final game was a win in the Super Bowl.
Vaguely remember that. Yeah,
over I believe the Seattle Seahawks in that game.
That sounds right.
Okay, who do you like out of this list? The forgettable Super Bowl? Is that what you're going with? We just discussed?
I think we've ruled that out. I think we can rule out Darryl Strawberry's drug problems. I mean, Alan Shepard hitting a golf ball on the moon.
I don't think we're going to have another opportunity to get Alan Shepard in there.
Have you seen the Brian Regan comedy sketch?
Oh, yes, I have.
The guy who always has to do the one-up you in the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I just about every time I hear about the moon, I think of that. Like, I've been to the moon.
I played that for my male RAs a couple times where they like, guys, you're going to run into this guy in your home.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Freshman boy syndrome.
Yeah,
basically.
For sure. All right. One thing you liked.
This last week, Friday morning, I had breakfast with my freshman roommate, who lives here locally, but I had not seen in probably 5 or 6 years, probably longer for us to hang out. And so it was nice to catch up, hear about his life, and hear what he's got going on. So it was fun to catch up with Mike in Warsaw, even though he doesn't listen to this. I'm not even sure he realizes it exists. So
there you go. All right. I'm going to go with I'm going to call it the extended birthday weekend celebration of my wife.
Okay.
Her birthday was last Thursday. So we had a lovely dinner out at Salvatore's with our sons, and one of our son's girlfriends joined us.
Nice.
And then our other son's girlfriend joined us after that for dessert at the house, some cheesecake, gifts, and we played a new game. Well, it's not brand new to us, but it was one of Kate's birthday gifts. Werewords. Have you played Werewords before? It's very good. Very, very enjoyable. And then Saturday, Kate and I went up to Spring Arbor, where one of my best friends is a Bible prof there, and his wife works in the athletic department as sort of the – this will make sense to you. She's the Kelly Sharp of Spring Arbor Athletics. So basically like it's a disservice to call this person like
an admin,
admin or a secretary. Like basically think like office manager for the athletic department kind of thing.
Makes the world go round.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And so we went up there, had a great lunch at a Mexican place, and hung out. Went to the Grace at Spring Arbor basketball games, women's and men's. The men, of course, continued their dominant run.
How is Spring Arbor's gym? Do they have a nice gym?
It's all right.
Okay.
It doesn't compare to the Mock, obviously.
Okay.
But I will say, and this was admitted by our friends, the atmosphere is kind of lame in terms of like the crowd. Not much student there, like hardly any students there. No, there's just no energy in the arena. So that was disappointing, but still fun to watch them. Great to hang out with friends, and that was my one thing I liked.
Nice.
All right, John, we've cracked the 50-minute barrier.
Oh, goodness. Well, it's been a minute since we've been in the studio.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Happens.
We have talked Super Bowl. We have talked the Knicks. We've talked Grace men's college basketball. We've talked social media. We have talked Alan Shepard hitting a golf ball on the moon. We have talked about you hanging out with your college roommate. And we've talked about my wife's extended birthday celebration. And so I think, by definition, we have covered our various and sundry topics. And so all that's left to say is, until next time, the Lord bless you all real good.
Later.